Korea has been one of the biggest regions in pro Overwatch. Unfortunately for Western fans, a lot of the culture and opinions that enrich the Korean scene is lost in translation, as the online community of Korea has been isolated by a language barrier, which is often untapped aside from a small number of articles and written translations. Whether it involves the players they hate or how skilled they think a certain player is, one may be surprised by just how different another region can perceive the same concepts through the same stream. In our case, we wanted to compile the top 5 players who are considered great in the West, but are rated completely differently in the eyes of the Korean community. These are the top 5 players who are feared less in Korea than in the West.
June was eliminated early on. Zumba taken down. Great flashbang from Eska to set up
Eska has
those
become
headshots.
sort of a meme in the Western community, but in Korea, Eska's play was scrutinized beyond measure during the days of Lunatic High. During his winning run in the first World Cup, he dazzled the fans with his hit-scan play, but once the meta made Tracer a must-pick, he was forced into an unfamiliar role to replace their Tracer player, Lee Tae-jung. Obviously, the results weren't spectacular. He didn't exude the confidence of a star Tracer player, and with Lunatic High's Ryu Jae-hong, Toby, Miro, and Zumba bolstering the best support and tank lineup in the world, once they started to drop maps against the better teams, all the blame had funneled onto Eska. Back in 2017, the majority of pro Overwatch fans in Korea were fans of Lunatic High, and a great portion of that community was demanding the removal of Eska. During those days, he was one of the most harassed Overwatch players in Korea, which is a pity, as several pros, including Birdring, has raved about how impressed he was by Eska's better heroes like Sombra. When Lunatic High moved on to the Overwatch League, Eska left on his own volition to stream PUBG. Since then, much like Western fans, Korean fans have also reminisced about Eska's presence in the scene, but it's clear that certain player stigmas can be very hard to remove, even when they are winning tournaments. Dafran is an enigma. There aren't many pictures of him online, and when watching his streams, or some of his older tournament VODs with Selfless, he displays some of the smoothest, most machine-like tracking that we have ever seen, even when compared to pro players. In fact, in our previous list of the top 5 players who never played in the Overwatch League, we went into length exactly why we'd like to see him at the top level. But in Korea, those who follow the scene don't exactly know of Dafran. It isn't entirely accurate to say he's less feared in Korea than in the West. A better way to phrase Dafran's situation is this: Koreans simply don't know very much about him, as they never had a chance to see him play in any of the big tournaments. During his time with Selfless, the top Overwatch competition revolved around the Apex tournaments, and there was next to no coverage of the NA tournaments from the production companies in Korea. Further exacerbating the situation is Dafran's lack of participation from both the World Cups, which is where Koreans usually get to learn about new Western players who have never played at Apex. Ever since Dafran's streams started gaining traction, Korean fans have had a chance to become more familiar with this FPS prodigy. But the truth is, outside of a couple highlight videos on YouTube, Korean fans had next to no chance of seeing Dafran play competitively, which is certainly a shame. Admittedly, the name Shatter2K may seem foreign to even some newer Western fans, but this Romanian teen was once regarded as possibly the best Genji player in the West. Playing in Team Liquid for much of his career in 2017, Shatter2K had gained notoriety for playing in online NA tournaments all the way from Europe. Obviously, playing at a non-local server means extremely high ping, which is considered a crippling disadvantage for any hero, especially Genji. But to our amazement, Shatter2K made it work, often carrying and winning against some of the best competition in NA. He had become a huge name near the end of 2017, but when compared to Dafran, he is an even lesser known commodity in Korea. Not only did he not participate in the World Cups, he also had a relatively quiet career in Team Liquid. While Dafran offered a unique tracking ability that created a somewhat small buzz in Korea, there were several domestic Genji players like Haksol and Flower who made top-tier Genji plays relatively commonly. As a result, one of the top Genji prospects in the West has never had a chance to showcase his skills to an Eastern audience.
finds its mark, and now the rest of the fusion will group up and go again.
It may surprise some that possibly the hottest DPS player in the world is making an appearance on this list. How can Carpe, of all players, be underrated? Well, it's rather complicated. During these last couple of months, there is no doubt that Carpe has swayed the Korean fans into recognizing his obvious talent, but for most of Carpe's career, he was never seen as a top player. For Koreans, much of their impression of Carpe prior to the Overwatch League was informed by the performance of his former team, the BK Stars. Unfortunately, BK Stars was considered a mediocre team at Apex, as they never managed to advance from the group stages. This stuck with them all the way to their eventual disbandment in June 2017. Things certainly didn't help that he was on the wrong side of the highlight reel versus Envious, losing to a peaking Widowmaker from Taimu. But afterwards, Carpe went to North America, where he briefly joined Selfless to replace Dafran, and after a month of strong showing, he was picked up by FaZe Clan, which eventually became the core for the Philadelphia Fusion. At this point, Carpe's strong performance had made him a big name in North America, and he started gaining a huge following from Western fans, which of course was mostly hidden from the Korean audience. In 2018, he is finally proving himself to be a top DPS player in the eyes of his native fanbase, but it took over one long year for Carpe to finally shake off some of those early bad impressions.
Teammates, but it's not going to be good enough. Rascal looking to hack out defense. He starts off strong.
This final entry may also come as a surprise to many. The former Dallas Fuel DPS with an unlimited hero pool, Rascal. But why would Rascal be underappreciated by the Koreans? Well, this one may be even more confusing, so stay with us. Rascal certainly isn't considered a bad player in the Korean community, but at the same time, he is considered as somewhat of a mid-tier DPS. This is unlike the Western communities who regard him as one of the best flex players in Korea. But some of that perception comes from the popularity he gained from playing in one of the most prominent teams in the West. In Korea, he was certainly considered a top player in his earlier days with Kongdu Panthera, during a time when he was known for thriving on his experimental picks like Sombra, which was before he joined forces with Birdring. Since then, he was considered a somewhat inconsistent player by that community, someone who has big ups and downs, but we really need to dig deeper into exactly why he has earned that image. For the most part, pro Overwatch play is seen with a bit of a black and white view, especially when it comes to the kill feed. When we see someone's name plaster the kill feed, we generally know they did a good job. It's important to note, however, that the kill feed is strictly for the player who last hits his opponents. And we often talk about a 6K as if the player solo killed the team on his own. Truth is, every fight won is a team effort, but the cleaners tend to receive a disproportionate amount of credit for the team's success. Rascal, very much known for his wide hero pool, is the ultimate flex DPS, someone who can pick up anything while his other DPS player plays a bit more of a specialized role, such as a Tracer or Widowmaker. High ceiling heroes that require extensive practice and grinding to master. Much of the time, these specialists require little resources and can play relatively individually while still being effective. They are usually required to do one simple task: go out there and get their team a kill. If we liken it to sports, a Tracer or a hit scan specialist is similar to a forward. They need to get the ball in the net. Naturally, a lot of the forwards tend to gain the most attention and have the highest goal totals, just like how the kill leaders in the Overwatch League are often a list of Tracer specialists. The flex DPS, on the other hand, is like the midfielder. Yes, one of their jobs is to score on occasion, but they often have other responsibilities, like playmaking and shoring up the team's weaknesses when needed. Since the early days of Kongdu, Rascal has always been the flex player of his team, even in a team with Birdring. Instead of sharpening just one or two heroes, it's important for these players to invest their time in grinding as wide of a hero pool as they can, and this limits how much of a ceiling a flex player can reach when compared to specialists. Flex players are not about reaching the mechanical ceiling of a hero or two, but giving his team adaptability and the ability to counter on the fly. Rather than being the absolute best mechanical player, Rascal has always taken his good mechanical skills and combines them with great game sense and a cerebral approach to be effective as a team player. Case in point, some of his most iconic moments as a pro has come from playing Sombra or Mei, heroes not necessarily known for being damage dealers, but utility DPS that use their abilities to set up plays for the rest of the team, at least for the most part. He is a unique player in this aspect, as he is famously known for being the first successful Sombra player at Apex, even before her buffs made her a meta hero pick. Unfortunately, in a world where DPS players will largely be judged by the kill feed, and you are considered inconsistent if you don't predominantly last hit your enemies, supportive, flexible DPS like Rascal may always be considered inconsistent, and perhaps always be underrated by the fans. Check out our website at AkshonEsports.com to stay up to date on the latest matches, highlights, and more. From scores, match history, and specific game info, we've got you covered for all things Overwatch Esports. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to check out our channel for more action-packed content. Also, like and share this video, and click the subscribe button to join our notification squad. Thanks for watching.